Okay, so I've started recording now, so that's a good thing. Thanks for the reminder. I've tried to mute everybody on entry, but if everybody could mute themselves, that would be really handy. As I say, I thought I'd muted everybody on entry, but if you find yourself not muted, perhaps you could just mute yourself, and that would be great. Okay. Well, um, this is the second of our UK webinars, and today we're going to have a little bit of a look at the UK workspace and some basic corridor modelling. You'll be pleased to know that you won't have to put up with my voice for the whole session this time, or the majority of the session this time, like the one 2 weeks ago, as Mark is going to do a lot of the presenting today. So you don't get my dulcet tone for an hour or so. So today's agenda, just quickly run through the introductions and housekeeping. I'll put that slide up again, an introduction to Mark and myself. So today we're going to have a look at the UK data set, which has been supplied with OpenRose Designer. Some basic corridor modelling techniques that Mark's going to run through. Those two are the majority of the session today. And then there'll be a little bit of Bentley news. Connect. I'm not sure we're going to have time to mention anything about Connect adoption, but if we do, then we might get a little bit of time on that. Just as I say, I've tried to mute everybody on entry, but if you're not muted, could you mute yourself, please? That would be really handy. Thank you. And open forum, as I say, if we get time, we'll have an open forum at the end. But as I say, as we go through, please feel free to ask questions in the chat window. And then finally, just a notification of the date and time of the next topic. So, introductions and housekeepings. Those of you here last time will know myself and Mark, and I'm not going to go through this in any detail again. As far as housekeeping goes, as I said, we will be monitoring the chat throughout the session, so feel free to ask any questions in the chat window. We'll try and answer those as we go through, but any that we can't, we can save a transcript of the chat as well, so we'll be able to take those away. We know who's asked the questions, and we'll respond after the session. The session is also being recorded, and it usually takes a day or so for the recording to materialise. So I'll be sending out a link to the recording, either for you to download it or to stream it off the web server, the WebEx server. Hopefully everybody got that last time. I did send it out not long after the event. I did check on the counts on it, and it's been watched. It's been watched or downloaded about 50 or 60 times. So it got sent out to everybody who attended, and people who attended can circulate it as well. And also there were quite a few people who couldn't make last time. I'd just like to say thanks for your participation last time. I think at our peak we had 90 people log into the session, but I know there were a couple of offices there, so we're claiming that we had around 100 people at the last session. So that was we were really surprised with how many people turned up, and it obviously shows that there's a need there for this kind of engagement with you, the users. So, okay, enough of the introductions and waffle. I'm going to talk for 10 or 15 minutes on the UK data set, so covering what's included, set up and install, the structure, and the kind of things that are included in the UK data set: seed files, unit class, feature definitions, visibility rules, supervision reports, templates, etc. What I'm not going to do actually is I'm not going to do any work with them, but I'll show you how to find them and what's exactly in there. It's just a show and tell session on what's there rather than some of the results. We can cover. We'll certainly be happy to cover things such as visibility, super elevation, reports, and some of the other drawing annotation bits and pieces at other sessions as well. What I'm going to cover today purely is where all the information on the UK workspace is, and what's and how to get hold of it. So first things first, I'm going to just shut down the PowerPoint for now. So where is the UK workspace? Where can I get it from? Well, you can go to the Software Download Center, and in Open Roads Designer, you'll see here the Open Roads Designer Connect Edition dataset, United Kingdom English. It was posted on the 19th of November. It's 92 megabytes, and it says that the version there is 10.05.0030. So this was the data set which was built with update 5. It's forward compatible, so it will work with update 6 as well, but it's not backward compatible. So there was a previous UK data set for update 4, update 3, etc. I think update 3 was the first one. So you can get this from the Open Roads Designer downloads area of the fulfillment center, and it's that file there. And as I say, it's about 92 megabytes in size. You simply download an exe, and I think I've got the downloads area of the. If I go to downloads, it's the name of the file. It's an MSI. You simply click on it, run through, and it install all the files, all the information that you need. So, what have we got in the UK data set? As far as the folder structure goes, we have under it's under C, program data, Bentley, Open Roads Designer, CE, configuration, and firstly under the workspaces, there's a configuration file, a CFG file. Now, most of you won't want to need to edit this, but there are things that you can change in here. Really, all it's saying here is that this is the configuration file using this folder called UK Projects, which points to the UK Standardization Localization folder. So as you can see here, civil organisation name is UK Standards. There's one of these for each of the world country kits that we have as well, and there are also various workspace settings that you can change in here if you wish for it to load up standards, DGN libs, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into this in any great detail, as most of you won't be interested in changing anything in here already. In here, there's one thing which we'll come on to later, which you may need to edit the CFG file for. So that's the CFG file, which is under the workspaces area. As far as the files themselves that it uses, they are under the UK Standards folder, which is in the same path down as far as configuration. Then you go to Organisation, Civil, UK Standards. So all the files associated with the UK Standards are under here, and these will be loaded if you're using the UK data set. So what have we got in here? I'm just going to run through a few of the more, most of these are the standard ones that are installed with just a base, the training and examples workspace, but we have edited some of them to include UK specific UK specific standards. So for example, in the seed files, if we go to seed files, there are 4 seed files in here using metrics, using meters as units, and an accuracy set to 4 decimal places. And the angle here in these is the angle readout is from the north, reading clockwise. So as we use in the UK, there's 2 2D ones there and 2 3D ones there. One is set with no geographic coordination system, GCS, and the other is set with the Ordnance Survey National Grid set. So you can see here, UK design DGN is no GCS, and the OS ones there are set with National Grid to use if you wish. So they could be quite useful to use, and I say we're using those in already at the moment. The second area is some of the DGN libs that we've created, and if you look, there's a Uniclass 2015 area here, which has got a load of Uniclass DGN libs on here, in here, and this is such things as levels, element, I think there's feature definitions, and lots of things in accordance with, so with CAD setups for the Uniclass 2015 data format, as you set out in, I think it's IEN 184/16, is it? And there's some level libraries that are used in Appendix C of that as an example. Now, just to note, these aren't loaded by default, so it doesn't use the Uniclass by default. You'd have to go back to the CFG file and change, I think it's DGN lib list configuration variable in there to use the Uniclass 2015 DGN libs. If anybody wants to know how to do that, drop me a message and I can send you some information on how to use these DGN libs. But they are there, it's just that they're not loaded by default at the moment. Also in here we have, what else have we got? No, back one level up. Site visibility. The site visibility tool that you're gonna want to use is the TD993 site distances.xml. I'm surprised that they haven't come up with a new. The previous one was 981, wasn't it? So the 12 years after that, so they must be due another one soon. But there's an XML file in there that you can have a look at. And that can be loaded up. I'll show you in a second in the product where these files can be found, where these files are used. So that's the UK standard site distances. There's also a standard ASTO one and site visibility one, which are the UK one was based on, so it allows you to edit and create your own. They're XML files, so you'll need some sort of XML editor to go into those there. There's also some, what else have we got? Some reports, some XML files here. So again, a lot of these are the standard ones we include, but we have changed some of the formats in some of the report files to UK stylize them. So, for example, they've been amended to use chainage instead of station, X and Y as headers. And some of them have been amended to give actual horizontal IP coordinates rather than arc intersection points as well. If you're using the UK data set, it will always, if you're using those, then it will always look in this location for any reports. So any user-defined reports that you have need to be placed in the relevant folder here. There's also a template library. It's an ITL file. I'm not going to show a great deal. There's not a great deal to see. It's a simple ITL file which has been created for the highway cross sections as defined in TD 2705. We'll have a look at those in a sec. There's no earthwork slopes defined in these templates, but you can create specific templates as required by combining them with other components in the library, as you do for a normal template. But the carriageway areas and the curb, etc., are all in accordance with the technical with TD 2705. There's a few other bits and pieces which I'm not going to go into in a great deal. Widening, we've created widening rules for the UK, and also there's some scales which we've included which are specific to UK requirements. So some sheet sizes we've only included A0, A1, A2, A3, and A4, and also scales. The standard scales in the training and work training and examples workspace didn't include 1 to 1250 and 1 to 2500, so we've included those as well. And also under, I think it's under, where is it? Under one of the DGN libs, there's feature the UK standard DGN lib. Under the feature definitions, under here we've included an MX Road DGN lib for feature definitions, and also there's under features annotations levels we've included some of our standard text heights, 1.8 mil, 2.5 mil, etc., etc. Okay, so that's the what's included. Just a quick show and tell on where to find the relevant bits inside of the product. So, for example, if we go to the terrain section and we go to site visibility, if we open up the dialog, you can see here that it automatically browses to the TD993 site distances.xml. We can select that, and as you can see, there are the relevant bits that we want in there: full overtaking site distance, stopping site distances, and all our design speeds here that we might use. So that's where it loads up all that particular information, and also I position object positions, which you can overwrite, but it loads those up from the rules file. And just final thing on site distance is that you can actually set up a feature definition for this as well, and it'll draw the information that you want up in the relevant style, be it stopping site distance, overtaking site distance, etc., etc. So the cat's cradle construction lines are drawn in a particular style. So that's the site visibility. And the other one we looked at was one of the other ones we looked at was super elevation. Again, I'm not going to go through and calculate super elevation, but if you go into calculate super elevation, this is where it loads up the rules file from, and you can see here using it also loads up what kind of E selection and L selection it's going to do as per TD993/A. So various Q values for the super elevation calculation and the design speeds that we want there, and of course it's got our pivot methods, whatever pivot methods that we want to use. And all the other things I've shown are in the detail of drawings and feature definitions. The only other one is templates. So if we go to the create template dialog, this should load up the, sorry, not the create template dialog. Was it the create template dialog? Just bear with me a second. There we go. UK standard templates, and you can see rural all-purpose, dual 2-lane, dual 3-lane, and single and rural motorways, dual 2-lane, dual 3-lane. And all these are as per the design standard. As I mentioned, they don't have side slopes or earthworks on them, but you can copy things from any of the end conditions that we have supplied here. So that's the UK Workspace ITL file. As I say, it's still something that we produced. We're constantly evolving because it's something that we can work on regularly. Then we can upload to the to the fulfillment center fairly regularly. As I say, as far as I know, they're forwards compatible, but not backwards compatible. And we welcome any feedback that you can provide us on the UK Workspace. If there's something missing, if something incorrect, or there's omissions, or what have you, if something's not working properly for you, then we're keen to hear about this. I must admit, I haven't heard a great deal about the use of the UK data set yet, so either that means it's working perfectly, or people aren't really exploring it too much at the moment. But as I say, the information is there. That's how you get to the UK data set. Um, that's where it is on the web, and those are the main things that have been included in the UK data set. Please, if you're using it, if you're using OpenRose Designer for UK projects, try and use it and feed back to us on any problems or any issues, or what we think what may be missing in it. Okay, if you've got any questions on the UK data set, then put them in the chat window. And if you need to think of something after the session, then just drop us an email. I think that's me done. I'm going to stop sharing now, and Mark's going to share now to show you some basic techniques on corridor modeling. Just let me go back to the PowerPoint for a sec. Let's have a look. So Mark's going to go through basic corridor modeling techniques. So corridor creation, template drops, edit templates, copying templates, key stations, corridor referencing, so secondary alignments, point controls, creating pavement constraints, clipping references, target aliasing, and end condition exceptions. And it's a really good presentation. I've seen this, and does a really good job. But there is quite a bit to get to. So I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to stop sharing, and Mark's going to take over. Mark, are you ready?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've just stopped sharing, so
okay,
share away.
I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Yep, I've got it. So I'm going to mute myself now.
Okay, so
it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So today we're going, sorry, just need to move something. Today we're going to create a corridor model and then explore the different tools and techniques to edit and manipulate this corridor. As you can see here, so you have all the tools, so you can add, copy, or edit a template drop. You can edit a corridor here, so you have the end condition exception, the key station, the secondary alignment, parametric constraint, the point controls. I won't cover the curve widening, we don't have enough time, but I will also show you how to use the target aliasing, the corridor references, and how to clip a corridor here. Other things I will show you is how to assign a super elevation to a corridor, but we won't calculate it, just attach it to the corridor. So we won't have time to go in the details, but the idea is to give you an overview of what these tools can do and when to use them. So the first thing is to create your file with the right workspace and workset. And once you have your file, you should add your data. So in this case, for a corridor, you will need at least a geometry, vertical and horizontal alignment, and a terrain model. In this case, you can either import them or attach them as a reference. As you can see here, I have my terrain, my geometry, and different other fields files to help me during the design, which see them later. So the first step to create a corridor is to go to Corridor, New Corridor, and you will get this window. And to create a corridor, you need to put together 3 elements. So a baseline, so you have to select your geometry. And once you have selected your geometry, you will be able to choose which profile you want to use. So for instance, you can see that in my geometry, I have 3 profiles, and I will use the active one. You can decide which feature definition to use for your corridor, and also the name. By default, it will be the name of the geometry. I will keep it. I'll validate. And now you can see that this shape represents the corridor, the red one. And the second step will be to create the template drop. I will show you how to add 2 template drops in this corridor. The first one we go from the start, so you can lock your station to the start. And the second thing is to choose which template you want to use. In this case, I have a specific template library for this presentation, and I will use first the rural one. I need to validate it. validate my start station. And here I want to apply this template until here. So before the two intersections, I snap to my elements. I validate the interval I want to use, in this case 10 meters. The transition, and now template drop should be created. Yeah, here we are. So you can see it in the 3D view here. It's appearing. And now we can create the second area. So the same thing, I choose my other template, the urban one. I validate, and I choose my stations. So from here until the end of the project, that is around here. So it's 2774. I validate the different values. And now we should have a corridor completed. So let's have a look to the object that we have created. So if I go in the references, in the 2D view, on the left, I have my references, and also it's my 3D model is attached here, so you can see it. I can decide to not to display it here. And so in the 3D model on the right, you will have the corridor model. So with the components, different components, the 3D linear features, if you want to see, you can see them here. And in the 2D view, you will have the elements to help you for the design. So for instance, you have this purple shape that represents, so you can see the template drops. So we have two elements like this, so one for the first template drop and another one for the second. And if you select them, you see that we have some handles on the side, and we can use to modify and manipulate the station. So here we could change it here, and at the end also we can decide to change it. And another object will be the linear feature in 2D. There you can see them here, and the corridor objects. That will be this one, the red one here. So you have all your corridor. If you don't want to have them displayed, it's easy. You can go in a view here and toggle construction. They will disappear. Okay, I will keep them for the moment. And the last thing to view your corridors that is quite useful will be the corridor object here. So you can see all the elements of your corridor listed here with the different elements. So like this is quite handy if you need to modify something or to add something. You have the possibility here in other cases. Okay. Now that we have created a corridor, we need to tweak it at some places. For instance, at the intersections, we don't want, or say, the sidewalks, the gradings, and the ditches to go across the intersections. So to modify it, I will show you two methods. The first one will be to use the display rules in the template drops. So what is a display rules? It allows us to display or not some components depending on some conditions. And we can define that in a specific element when a specific element is encountered. Those elements are not displayed. For instance, what does it mean? It means we can say to our template that every time we find this linear feature with the feature definition match line, so we can see it here, this one, don't display these components in this part. So to do it, you need to add a corridor reference here. So you locate your corridor, you select your reference that you want to add to. Wait, no, it took the wrong one. So let's do it again. I select my corridor. I select it, I right click to validate. And now all the elements are not displayed anymore. So you can see it here on the 3D view. You can do it for all your intersections. So I do it again. So I select my corridor. I select the other lines. One, you can select multiple lines in a row. One, two, the last one here. And then right click to validate. And you can see in the 3D view, it has been clipped at the intersection. The second method is simply to create a new template drop where you have your intersections. Here we try it at the driveways. So you create a new template, you select your corridor, and we will keep the same, at the moment we will keep the same template. You define, so you validate the station, the template, you select the stations, the interval, and once the new template drop is created, we have it here, we can edit it. So we select it, we'll have the template drop editor that will be displayed, and we will delete all the components we don't need. So to do so, we delete components, and I delete everything. And I save it. Where it is? Yeah, here. You can see it. So now we have deleted all the elements we didn't need, and we have to do it for the second one. So instead of doing all this process again, you can just copy a template drop and apply it to the other area. So here, so and there. And yep, so we apply the same template drop to this other area. Okay, that was the two methods you can use to tweak your corridors when you encounter some intersections. And now what I wanted to show you are the parametric constraints. We will use them here for the curbs because we kept them for the driveways. Let me rotate the view so we can see better. Okay. So here we have our curbs is in a full height, and we want it to drop until 3 centimeters. In our template, if I edit it, we can define some labels to every dimension. So for instance, here we have this point. You can see that the constraints are horizontal and vertical, and what we are interested in is this one. So the vertical say distance of the curve is defined by the label curve type 1 curve height right. So what we will do is we will modify these values with the parametric constraints. To do so, you go in Edit, Parametric Constraints, select your corridor, and here it is. So you have this one. Is this one we want to modify? We say which will be the new value. So 3 centimeters on both sides, and we define the stations. So from here until here. We validate the values. And we can see in the 3D view, yes, that's it has been dropped to 3 centimeters. You can do it in other places. So that was one thing you can do with the parametric constraints. I will show you also another thing with the parametric constraints is quite interesting. Is if you go in here, okay, start by yes, it's that you can export and import the values. So if I will disactivate the corridor processing, but you can, for instance, export these values if you want to keep them for another project or another file, or you can also import them after. So in this case, I will use an example of how you can change the pavement depth here. So you can add different values, and the different components will take the new values. The last thing we can see with the driveways is how to create a key station. To do it, you go back to the edits. It's this one, the key stations. It allows you to create, so we will create a key station at the center lines of the driveways, and it gives you the ability to add template drops at user-specified locations along the corridor. And it adds stations that are not coincident with the template interval. So, for instance, you can select your corridor and say, I want a specific template here. You will add it, and we can do it again here, the second one. Okay. Okay, that was what I wanted to show you with the parametric constraints and the key stations. Now we will see how to add when you need, for instance, when you need to widen your corridor carriageway. For instance, here, wait, yes, here, we need to add a turn lane on the left. So to do so, we have two solutions. The first one is to create a new template drop in this area, and I would use one containing an auxiliary lane on the left. I locate my corridor, I validate the template I want to use, and I want to apply it from here until here. And so I validate the other values. And it should be okay. So let's have a look at what okay, something happened. So let's do it again. So I want to apply this template to this area. So I locate my corridor, I validate it, select the stations, and okay, something is going wrong. Okay. We can have a look in the object what's happened. So we have the different templates here displayed, and the one we wanted is here. Okay, it's not applying to the right places. It's going from, so I will try to delete it. Oh yeah, because what happened is I didn't reactivate the corridor processing. I should work. Okay, now it's fine. I do it again. Sorry about it. Again, so validate my template, the start station, end station, and I should have my new template drop. Okay, this time it works. So as you can see, we can't see the turn lane because we use also a display rule here. I need to add a reference that will be my age of payment. I locate my corridor, the references, and then when I'm happy with it, I right click and here you can see. So we added the third line here on the left, and with all the end conditions and elements on the side. The second method is to use the point controls. At the end of the corridor, we have also a turn lane on the right, and this time we use the point controls. So the process is to create also a new template drop. This time I will use my right turn here. I validate it. I select the stations from here until the end of the project. So 274 drops. Okay, it's done. We can see that we have a template drop here. And this time I will use the point controls. So I go here, I select it, I select my corridor, and what happens is I will oblige a point in the template drop to follow a different path. In this case, I would say that the point that is called edge of pavement, so EOP, in my template drop, right, will have to follow horizontally a linear geometry that I need to define. So the first thing is to select the station until the end, the same thing. Give it a name. So we validate the point we want to control, the mode, which kind of element we will choose, and we choose the element that will become our new direction. And here is the secondary alignment. So what is it do? What does it do, this secondary alignment? Usually the templates are calculated perpendicularly to your alignment. So every element that will be created will be perpendicular to your alignment. But in some cases, for instance here where you have a taper, you don't want your elements to be calculated perpendicular to your main alignment. You want them to be calculated perpendicular to this new alignment. And so it's what we define it as a secondary alignment. Like this, all the elements after this alignment will be calculated perpendicular to this secondary alignment. So in this case, it's what we want to do. So we say yes. We keep it a priority 1, validate the other data, and we should have a corridor carriageway following this point control. If we go on the 3D view, yeah, you can see it here that it's what happened. Okay, now with that we've done all these modifications to the carriageway, we want to apply our super elevation. When your super elevation has been calculated and created, it's quite easy to apply it to a corridor. You just need to go to assign to corridor, select your, first you have to display it. So I have it as a reference here. So I display it. The thing is, be careful because I'm it will display it in the way, in the view that where is what that is active. I was in the 3D model. I do it again. Okay, so in the super elevation file contains 3 elements. So this shape represents all your super elevation, and the green and the yellow, the lanes, so the right and left lines. So to apply them to your corridor, you go to corridor, assign to corridor, select your super elevation section. We have only one section for this corridor, so we just select this one, we validate, we select our corridor, so here, and we just have a look at how it works. So basically the lanes in the super elevation will be applied to some points in your template. So the pivot point will be the center line here, and the super elevation, so the variation will be done on this point in the template. So when you're sure that is what you want, you validate. And okay, once it's done, you can review it by using the view control and view the 3 views with plan, cross sections, and 3D view. Okay, now you need to select what you want to display. I want to display my corridor in this view. And so now I can see my corridor, the cross sections of my corridor, and I will have a look in the curves to be sure that my super elevation were applied. So I can right click in my cross section view, and it gives me the possibility to locate station via data point. I go in my plan view, and I say I want to see my cross section here, for instance. And as you can see, my carriageway has the super elevation, so it worked. Okay, so that's it for the super elevation. The next tool I want to show you is the corridor clipping. It's I will use another file in this time. So in the other file we have a corridor with divided highway running above our project, and so a bridge is necessary at this intersection, and we need to adjust this corridor to integrate the bridge. So with the corridor clipping tool, we just need to draw a shape around your bridge area. So for instance, this shape, and use it as a clipping reference. And all the corridor elements inside will be trimmed. So let's do it. I select the corridor I want to clip, my reference I want to use. I validate it, and you will see it in the 3D view that all this section will disappear. Here we go. So now we can see our bridge with the walls on the side and our projects below. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you with the the corridor clipping. Now let's go back to our project. And I will show you the target aliasing, how to define it. Okay, so you will use it, basically you can use it when you have different elements to target. In the case of with this the highway above and the bridge and walls, we would like to modify how the template behaves below the bridge. So I will display my cross section with the 3D view again. Okay, some process. I select my corridor view. And okay, it's go. It's okay. And I want to see a cross section under the bridge. To display the bridge, I will activate my references in the 3D view. So here you can see the bridge, the corridor, and the walls around it. So here now we can see all of them here in the view. And what I want to do is that my the gradings go and hit the walls instead of my active terrain. So to do this, you go and define the target aliasing, select your corridor, and in this I will decide which corridor or surface I want to target. So in this case I will use the walls. I add them in the aliases, and I add at last, as the last element, my existing terrain. Be sure that the use closest is not active, and then apply it. And now you can see that instead of finishing at my active terrain, it goes and hit the walls. That was the target aliasing, and the last tool I want to show you now is the end condition exceptions. Also, this is quite useful. So imagine, we have a corridor below this bridge. We have one template drop along, and we want to change the slope of the grading here. We want it a bit softer. So instead of creating a new template drop, what you can do is create an end condition exception. To do it, so you go here, you select which kind of exception you want to create, you give it a name, and then you can you have different options of what you want to do. So left override, right override, the transitions, or just keep the backbone. So it means the part of the template without the end conditions. In my case, I will use the left override. I select my corridor, validate the name, what I want to do. I select the stations, and here I say I want here, from here to here, I want to apply this end condition. Now we'll have the template at this area, and so I want to override this stitch and this end condition. The thing to do is to delete the components, and you can add a new one. In this case, it will be wall grading, and I add it to my component, and that's it. I validate, and you should see here that the slope would be a bit different. Here we are. Last thing I will show you on the end condition exception. So I created it here, and we have the possibility to select it and change the position of it. So for instance, I want it to be closer to the end of the bridge. And that's it. So we've finished. So the last thing I will show you now is that everything that we have created and modified is listed in the corridor objects here. So if you need to change them, to delete anything, you can go here, and you will have all the changes you've made available. So you can delete them, you can add, you can do anything in the corridor object. And that's it for me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. If you want to, have you stopped sharing? Great.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just going to share just my screen just right at the end. I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, but I think it was quite good, quite important that Mark Mark showed you lots of technical stuff this time, as opposed to me talking a lot. So we're just going to run through a couple of last things before everybody starts dropping off at the top of the hour. Bentley news. Well, there's not a great deal of going on just at this time of year, but there are a couple of. So the only event I really know about is this rail event, which is in March. May not be of interest to you, but as I say, hopefully as the sessions go on, we'll get more and more events to put in here. As far as training goes, I just thought I'd mention that on the Bentley News as well. You can stream it on the server. Maybe we'll try and have a little bit of a session on showing what's on the training at one of the sessions as well. And there's also regular distance learning. I know there's a session this week on defining template end conditions. There are usually a couple of hours that you can join. But as I say, maybe I'll try and get a list of training events. We can have a quick look on the Learn server next time. Products updates and releases. Nothing really to report here, to be perfectly honest. I think I mentioned last time what all the latest versions are of the products that we have. And the releases that have been that we've had. As I say, there is we are going to quarterly releases, so the next product release date's likely to be the end of March. And as far as Bentley News goes, for those of you who've got Twitter, @BentleyUKI is a good Twitter account, Bentley Twitter account to follow. That will keep you up to date on any UK events. I follow it, and there's lots of good, useful stuff on there. So, @BentleyUKI is the Twitter account to follow. Okay, as I say, we're nearly at the top of the hour. If anybody's got any questions, then either type them in the chat window. I've noted that we haven't had any questions, which I'm quite surprised about, but I think Mark may have blinded you all a little bit there with lots of information. As I say, if there's anything specific technical we can take away, then put it in the chat window now, or as I say, email myself or Mark after the event. This webinar has been recorded, I hope. So I will furnish you all with a recording of the event afterwards. Feel free to share it and share it with as many people as you like in your organisation, and please invite as many people from your organisation. I think we've had about 85 here today, which is a couple down on last time, although there's 4 or 5 Bentley people that turned up last time that aren't here today. So, but as I say, please. Hopefully you've found this useful. If there's anything you want to know, you can email us about the webinars. If there's anything you want to know, if you've got technical issues, then please log a service request online, as we discussed last time. And we've got a month until the next one. Again, last Thursday of the month, 12 till 1, 28th of February. Junctions, slip roads, nosings, and what happens if your geometry changes when you've done all your work. So workflows are to cover those issues. Again, just point out everything we've done here today was live from Mark. There's no videos, no smoke or mirrors. That's a data set that we've put together based on the work that we've done with users. So it's all live. I think Mark used the UK data set as well. So that's all stuff that is available to you. A lot of information in there. And as I say, you're probably worthwhile taking the recording away, running through it again, and maybe just checking through the individual steps that Mark goes through. But as I say, lots of useful stuff on some basic corridor modeling techniques. Some of it maybe you're not familiar with, and some of the terminology is slightly different from the native product that you might be used to. But it's all about getting you familiar with the new product and adopting the Connect edition. I don't have anything else to say. I think we're just about to hit 1 minute past 1, so trying to keep it tight on this 1 hour. So there's nothing else from my end, so I'll call the meeting to a close. Look out for the recording. Look out for the follow-up email from me. Thank you very much for attending again. It's been a fantastic turnout again, and look out for the invite for the Monday to the next one, the Monday before the 28th. What will that be? The 23rd, 24th, something like that. Okay, so drawing the meeting to a close, and have a good afternoon and rest of the week, everybody. Goodbye now.